Genie grind, I wish I'm getting rich, huh? Remember when I said I hit a lick, huh? I don't really wanna fuck the bitch, what? Willie when I made another hit, okay, like Prada on my motherfucking kid, huh? Louis on my motherfucking hip, huh? Curry how I dunk, no switch, hey, fucker gonna fuck that bitch, hey, if you ain't gon' fuck with me, you a dumb fuck, put up a hit above for that one punch, look at my bank and I'm getting dumb rich, and I'm gonna count it up till 100,
Hello, I am What If Study, and today we are beginning right off where we had left off from What If Deku was the strongest hero reincarnated. Deku and Bakugo face off in the final battle in the place. Bakugo is actually starting to smile, anticipated for this, although also a little bit of that, exaggerated anger inside of his heart, burning up a little bit. Of course, Deku's arrogance does not exactly help this. However, Deku and Bakugo had formed a bond over this few years. Deku had pushed Bakugo over his limits, and he had hated him for it in the past, but now he was almost thankful for it. What is this? As Deku blows a kiss to Midnight in the stands, and the 13-year-old coming out to the stands, saying it's just, and Midnight's like, oh, I'm sure he'll do fine. That the kid's just like, I wasn't questioning if he was going to do all right. Ugh, why does he have to be so lovey-dovey in front of all these tiny people? Tiny people? We have to respect them as other people. Ugh. Why should I even listen to you? Hey, Missy, as she, she bends her ear. She's like, ow, 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 ow. You may be a mystical being, but everybody here still demands your respect. They're other human beings. Isn't that enough? No? As she, pulls her ear really hard. She's like, yes. They're living beings, too. I can't believe I have to tell this to a freaking Thunderbird or whatever you were. She's like, I was the legendary Thunderbird, you bitch. Excuse me? Missy, when did you learn to have such a bad mouth? Was it from your father? As then she's like, oh god. So, Deku laughs as he can basically hear that far into their conversation. He can also hear the beating that she's probably going to get coming forth. As Deku walks up to the stage with a smirk on his face, knowing that he has his family by his side. And his only and best student, Bakugo. Bakugo walks up also with a sort of a full grin on his face, which was odd for Bakugo. Deku was questioning this sort of behavior, however, he sensed no malevolence in this sort of smile. This was pure anticipation for the fight. As Midnight's actually asked to come out and, flag the fight, as almost everybody in the stands are like, ugh, isn't she, didn't she kiss the kid that she's, isn't she going to be biased in this, being the ref? But, all the teachers are kind of forced by this point because Deku basically owns the whole entire place. So, Midnight comes out, of course, with her cheerleading form, as you do see in the clip art. She waves up the flag and says, to our contenders, may this battle be fair and all do well. Begin! As she throws up the flag. Both, of course, Bakugo immediately charges straight after Deku. However, in a different way than he would usually, blasting the ground from under Deku, as Deku has to jump up. However, Bakugo also catches him when he's trying to jump up, as Bakugo used the explosion to fire himself up, and Bakugo tries to kick him in the stomach. This lands and throws Deku off of the stage. However, Deku falls onto one of his clouds that he had recently made, and shoots himself up into the sky with the cloud, back down, guiding himself with a thunderbolt that reflects inside of his fist. As Bakugo also meets this with a gigantic explosion. This stops Deku's descent and also harms his fist quite a lot. Deku's now floating above as the gigantic, smoke that was made from this starts to clear, as Deku starts to use this to his advantage, flying around the smoke trying to find Bakugo. As then he senses Bakugo running outside of the smoke, he comes out of it, turning into lightning himself while tripping Bakugo. Bakugo falls onto his face, however, Bakugo instantly grabs onto the tile and picks up one of the tiles as a sort of projectile, throwing it at Deku's face. Deku had no idea that he was such a rough fighter. He was always a rough fighter, however, he had always been teaching Deku, Bakugo refined techniques. He'd never expected this. As such, it hits the top of Deku's head and stops his sort of combo that he was going to perform. And Bakugo gets the upper hand on this, firing multiple explosions with every single punch, which were aimed at almost every single one of his body parts. Being unable to predict these sort of attacks, Deku uses his lightning to phase through every single one, confusing Bakugo, as he had never seen Deku use this power, as Deku appears right behind Bakugo, because he had phased out and then phased in right behind him. He grabs onto Bakugo's shoulders. Bakugo, thinking that he's going to, try to choke him out, of course, grabs onto his hands and then tries to throw him as fast as he can. However, Deku had planned on this. That was his whole entire point, and starts electrocuting Bakugo. Bakugo is barely able to handle it, as he tries to blast off Deku's hands. However, he sees under his sleeves the sort of burn marks that he had gained when he was fighting All For One, almost in this dogmatic format on his arm. That sort of suddenly made Bakugo kind of regret blasting Deku's arm off, so he just kind of didn't do it and instead kicked Deku in the face. Deku is thrown off of him, as both Deku and Bakugo are fully, exhausted by this point. That was a long sequence of events and had destroyed a lot of the stage, especially from the single combat from before. But they had punched each other and kicked each other so much and had outlasted each other for a while. But Deku says, "You know what? I'm calling it. I think he might be as powerful as All For One." "You really think so, Deku?" As it may have sounded sarcastic, but that's just how Bakugo actually sounds normally. That's just how he's used to talking. However, he could tell from the underfolds of it that it was truly heartfelt, that made Bakugo smile and feel pleased, like he had always wanted that. A smile comes over Bakugo that was not malicious. It was not anticipation. It was just pleasure from attaining what he wanted, from being what Deku had always wanted him to be. And Deku smiles and says, "Shall we end this? Throw out your best attack." It's surely getting boring for the people in the stands. Bakugo says, "Alright, if you think you can handle this. Actually, I think that you should know where I got this from. It's a new quirk." "A new quirk? You mean one of your own?" No. When you were gone, and all of UA was attacked, I was given a proposal to save everybody during the UA attack. One from All For One. What? Yeah. As then Bakugo claps his hands together, as this gigantic ball of energy that swirls around, all of his sweat being sucked up into it. All that had remained inside of his body was starting to be sucked out from him. He says, "That's weird. I didn't think it would be so powerful." He said it would be enough to beat you. All he wanted to do was beat you. And he said that if I took this quirk and I beat you, well, he would kill no more. Bakugo, you idiot. That's a nuclear bomb. As Bakugo's like, what do you mean, Deku? This will just defeat you, won't it? You fucking idiot. As then Bakugo's essence is starting to be sucked into it. You can see the life force of Bakugo starting to suck into it. Deku says, Everybody needs to leave now. Cementos, protect this arena. Nightwing, Midnight, get everybody out of here. She says, but what about just get everybody out of here right now? Bakugo's like, what's happening? He didn't say anything about this. Of course he didn't, because he's the ultimate bad guy, you idiot. How could you fall for something like this? Bakugo's like, I don't know. It hurts like hell. You fuck. Oh, God. Try to reverse it. I can't. I can't do anything. Bakugo. Shut up, I'm trying. I can fix it. Stop. Bakugo. What? Deku. Am I going to die? Deku. Bakugo. As Bakugo's skin starts to erode away, sapping itself into this orb of golden. The government had, covered it up because it was used for suicide bombing so much that, they had covered up the existence of detonation quirks. However, apparently, All For One was able to get his hands on just one, and that was enough. He planted this inside of Bakugo and left him while he had taken down the place. Deku now realizes this as it all hits him. Bakugo, look at me. Bakugo stops looking so stressed and looks up into Deku's eyes. Deku just says, I'm proud of you, Bakugo. Everything that you've done, I'm proud of. Every single one of it. You would have been the greatest hero. One that I would be so proud to have been the master of. Even greater than All Might. You mean it? Of course I mean it, kid. No. Brother. Bakugo, for the first time in his life, cries. Although it's not even sucked up into the life essence. The bomb then sucks up the rest of Bakugo, as Deku also cries. Deku wishes he could hug Bakugo in this time of need, but he couldn't. If he was to, he would be sucked up into it too. Bakugo just opens up his arms to try to absorb as much of the impact as he can from hitting the audience. Deku goes forward and puts his hand on Bakugo's shoulder and looks him in the eyes. I'm sorry. I wasn't there. As then the orb sucks up everything inside of Bakugo and compresses itself into a tiny little orb that falls to the ground slowly. And then it returns back to Deku, standing there. The clothes that he had once worn was fully blasted off. Only the other side of them had been not blasted off. Deku's tears did not stop, however. Even streams nearby stopped. It seemed like the whole world had stopped. He looks around to see the blasted arena. The remnants of what he once considered his home. and the boy that he considered brother now. Tears continued to stream down his eyes, for it was the only thing he could do now, the only thing that he was able to muster. He turns around to see Cementos on the ground, probably dead, but he has no time for that. He must look for what remnants he can find of his hope, for he cannot see midnight for all of his hope. It hits him finally. Bakugo was nothing but ash, dust. He reaches up to the air to try to grab some, but he only finds handfuls of air and dust. No, no, no! You stupid bastard! Why? Why did it have to end up like this? Why did any of this? As the dust clears, he sees the stands and Midnight covering herself with all of her hair shedding. No, this was feathers. Feathers from the Thunderbird, covering both Midnight and the kid. There's something to be thankful for. Something. But all the people around them, he couldn't say the same for them. She had gotten out almost 50 people. But when she came back for the kid, well, god damn it. As he walks up to her, he falls down to his knees. As he says, "Please don't look around," as she picks up her head, saying, "What happened? What happened here? What's happening?" As she tries to turn around, he grabs onto her face as she did his before. "Please, promise me one thing, you won't look around. If you do, you'll be scarred as me. I don't want that." Who's speaking right now? Both of us. The kid too. Just get her out of here. You know where to walk. I have to help, Deku. You can't. Why can't I? The kids in the stands that had been watching were dead too. He can't tell this to Midnight. He can't bring himself. He can't have an ounce of stamina left that were put away to try to tell her. The only things that came out of his lips was, "Please, understand what I'm about to do." As he grabs onto her face and kisses her. He electrocutes her brain. He connects with her, sort of, her electric stuff in her brain, allowing her to stay awake, and snaps her, cutting off and knocking her out. As he puts his hand onto the girl's head and does the same for her. If either of them saw this, they would be scarred for life. Especially Midnight. He picks himself up. A dreadful sight. Something I wouldn't exactly consider. Actually, you know what? I think I would have it painted on a picture. A perfect copy of what despair will look like. Isn't it beautiful, gentlemen? It was all for one. He had came to wipe up what was left of the explosion. So this was your plan, all for one. Your plan to destroy everything. This was your revenge. You're pitiful as you were before. Oh, some feist in you still. I thought after seeing your treasured student die, I thought you'd be all out of quips. I am. Deku peers down to his left arm, now just realizing that it was completely blown off in the fight, all the way up to the shoulder. God damn it. All for one. You bastard. Every single one of them. They're here just to swipe up after Deku, after Bakugo's explosion. Was that your plan this whole time? All for one. This whole time? After the explosion, you just wipe up all the rest of the heroes that are left standing. Was that your plan? Well, now that you phrase it that way, it seems a little too simple. Maybe I should have added on to it a little bit more. Isn't that what you wanted me to say? Brother, you have lost. You have lost time and time again. I think it's time for us to end this little dance. Come now, brother. It's time for your end. Deku picks up the gas mask that he had, Midnight had brought as extras for his clothes, in case it was blown off, and puts it onto his face. Brother, you have it all wrong. I wasn't critiquing it. I was simply saying it's flawed. 'Cause there's one hero who wasn't here during the explosion. All Might. As then All Might comes smashing down out of the sky, punching the face of All for One, throwing him as far as he can out into the mountains. As then All Might says, "There's no need to fear, 'cause I am here." As the almost 3,000 villains that All for One had brought with him are now shuddering in fear. As Deku says, "Go, All Might. This isn't your battle. Go and defeat All for One, once and for all." Right. As then All for One crunches up and then dashes off as fast as he can out into the mountains. Now that he's gone. As Deku turns back, some of the refugees, all the different people that had been in the explosion, one comes out of the rubble and comes close to Midnight. Deku had taken no notice. As he walks towards the crowd of different people, as, he's feeling like a little bit of a more sadistic, man, by this point. He's not going to let them get away so easily. You think you can murder thousands of people in this arena and just walk away? You've got another thing coming. As then electricity starts to flow down his arm, as his arm starts to grow back. Not grow back in physical form, but in mental form. As he had always kept electricity flow throughout his whole entire body, he starts to circulate it around his whole entire body, creating another arm out of electricity. It spikes and grows like it's almost made out of ice, but it's not. It's electricity. It's disgustingly red, entangled with blood, as the wound had cauterized after his arm had been blown off. He says, "You're not gonna make it out of here alive." As the 300 villains that had been transported by Tomura and Kurogiri. Tomura doesn't even do a speech. He's just like, "Charge! Fuck it! Just charge!" As all of them, Deku just, as then he just, as he's just destroying through all of them. I mean, he's rolling through every single one. Every single punch cauterizes straight through people and just shreds through 10 people a punch at least. After almost a minute of just straight up using brute force, he finally gets stabbed by an ice spear from one of them. And he's like, "You want me to turn up the heat? Fine. So be it." As then he cups both of his hands together and then opens up a gigantic ball above him of lightning. He calls down a lightning strike right onto him, and it saps straight into his whole body. It now morphs into a ball around him, a lightning ball. He holds out his hand and says, "You better be ready for this. Charge, lightning ball!" As then this gigantic lightning ball just rolls through people, electrocuting people and killing everybody that gets touched by it. He controls it with his mind, actually. And then while everybody's distracted with that, he appears right behind Tomura and then grabs onto his head and lifts him slowly up into the air as he slowly increases his pressure and then explodes the head of Tomura right in front of their whole entire army. Deku says, "Did you really think you would escape alive? After what you have done?" He holds up his left hand as the hand becomes even bigger and bigger and bigger. The cloud storms start to go even stronger. The clouds start to turn red and start to drip blood. Everything slows down for just a second. Deku looks up to each one of them, the fear in their eyes, and sort of likes it. Finally, they have what they came for. Fear. Death. This is all the things they wanted. You should be rejoicing right now! Why are you afraid? As then he appears right in front of Kyogiri. And he's like, why are you afraid? I'm only here to help you accomplish your goal. As Deku, electricity starts to form around his mouth that arcs out from the sides of it, and thunderbolt-sized stuff, you know, scars start to form from where the lightning bolt had formed inside of the gas mask. And there's electricity that builds up inside of the gas mask, clouds that start to build inside of it, and it clouds around his face, stopping anybody from seeing it. It's now just a big blur of clouds and lightning, kind of like Kyogiri. Deku stabs his hand straight through Kyogiri's stomach. It pierces through the other side with, well, blood splattering every single which way. Deku doesn't even care. He continues and continues and continues, thrusting his hand in and out with each hand. By the end of it, Kyogiri had a gigantic hole inside of his chest, bigger than his own torso, wider than his own torso. Kyogiri just falls to the ground, not even lifeless. It's just a corpse that's been there for thousands of years. He is nothing anymore. Deku unstucks his hands from the inside of Kyogiri as he looks up to the rest of the villains. He holds up his hand, saying, "If you wish to live, run." As all of them start to run, you know, of course, no brainer. As Deku finds almost, you know, enjoyment in hunting every single one down, as he like punches straight through one's arm, he grabs onto another, rips it off, and then uses it to bash in a guy's skull. Brutal shit like that. You dared to mess with me. This is what you get! As then he's just destroying as much as he can. Half of the arena was destroyed just by him, and the other half had been destroyed by the by Bakugo's explosion. By the end of the day, Deku settles down, falling on his back, and leans up against the rock that he had chased one guy's brain onto. You know, bashed it as hard as he could. 295 hunted down out of 300. Looks like I'm gonna go night hunting then. As you know, he marks that on the rock. He starts making his way home. As all for one, All Might. He just kind of lands inside the arena and says, "What a tragedy. Is this where?" Yes, that's where Bakugo had. I'm so sorry, Deku. There was nothing I could do. No, I'm no longer Deku. Call me Alawa. As, he just walks on past All Might. All Might's like, what's up with the blood splatters? In his head, he's like, maybe I shouldn't ask. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys sometime, somewhere. Goodbye.